The dog wouldn't stop staring at the baby's face during mealtimes. Not at the food. At the face, they thought it was begging behavior. They were wrong about what he was begging for. He almost ignored the warning. That would have been his biggest mistake. Tommy Reardon was 11 months old. His father, Kevin, a high school football coach. His mother, Sandra, a dental hygienist, with a practical, orderly approach to parenting that had served her well across 2 previous children. Their golden retriever, Chester, was 4 years old, 78 pounds, and had been their family dog long enough that they thought they knew every behavior in his repertoire. Then Tommy started solids. The transition to pureed foods at 6 months had gone smoothly. The shift to finger foods at 10 months had gone smoothly. At 11 months, Sandra introduced oat puffs, the small dissolvable kind that every infant developmental chart describes as ideal for developing the pincer grasp and the oral motor skills for chewing. Chester watched the first oat puff go into Tommy's mouth from across the kitchen. He was lying on his mat in the corner, which was his usual position during mealtimes. His head was up. His ears moved forward. He watched the second puff go in. He watched the third. On the 4th puff, he came off his mat. He crossed the kitchen and sat directly beside the high chair, close, his face at the level of Tommy's tray. He looked at Tommy's face, not at the food. He looked at the skin around Tommy's mouth, at his cheeks, at his neck above the bib. Sandra told him to go back to his mat. He looked at her and sat down and came back to the same position 3 seconds later. Kevin told him off more firmly. Chester went to the edge of the kitchen and sat and looked at them, a gaze that Kevin described afterward as pointed in a way that a dog's gaze is not usually pointed, with intention and weight behind it. They assumed food motivation. They assumed the puffs smelled appealing. They assumed a well-trained dog was pushing the limits of his training and needed a reminder. They put a baby gate up to keep Chester out of the kitchen at mealtimes. He sat on the other side of it and pressed his nose to the gate bars and pointed his face at Tommy for the entire duration of lunch. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe, so you don't miss the next one. On the 3rd day, Sandra noticed something during cleanup. The skin around Tommy's mouth after oat puffs was not quite right. Faintly red, flushed in a way that blended with normal post-meal color, but did not fully resolve between bites the way ordinary flush from eating usually did. She took a photo. She looked at it later that evening, under better light. She called the pediatrician the next morning. The pediatrician, Dr. Ronald Marsh, saw them same day. He conducted a preliminary assessment and referred Tommy to Dr. Laila Hassan, pediatric allergist, for a comprehensive panel. Tommy had a moderate oat allergy, not severe, not anaphylactic, but real, documentable, and expressed in the skin tissue around the mouth first, before any systemic response developed, in a way that would be invisible to a parent watching a baby eat and seeing only normal mealtime redness. Dr. Hassan explained what Chester had been detecting. Localized allergic response in oral tissue produces measurable histamine-associated chemical changes in skin and saliva output. In a dog with normal olfactory function, these chemical changes are detectable at close range before any visual symptom becomes obvious to a human observer. Chester had been sitting beside the high chair because the chemistry around Tommy's mouth changed when he ate the puffs. And that change was something Chester registered as wrong before Sandra could see it. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The gate came down. Chester's access to the kitchen during mealtimes was reinstated. He returned to his mat, which he had always done when the food in the room did not register as a concern. When oat puffs had been present, he had not been begging for them. He had been trying to tell someone to look at what the food was doing to the face of the small person eating it. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Tommy is 13 months now. His diet is managed with the awareness of his oat sensitivity and several other mild allergies identified in the comprehensive panel. Mealtimes are otherwise completely ordinary. Chester eats his own food in the corner of the kitchen and lies on his mat and monitors the room at a level of attention that the family has stopped calling lazy, presence, and started calling something that does not have a clean word for it yet. Kevin, who had coached athletes for 22 years and who understood what it looked like when a being read a situation with accuracy and precision, and acted on it without being asked, had an opinion about this. He said it once, in the kitchen, while Tommy ate something safe in the high chair, and Chester lay on his mat with his eyes open. He said, "I've been wrong about that dog for 4 years. Then he finished his coffee and went back to his practice schedule, which was the kind of man he was. The next story involves a dog who ignored the family for 3 days and stayed with the grandmother who would be hospitalized on the 4th.